I can't talk anymore. I'm done talking. I had to clean Dakota Digital Syndicate Series gauges. I hope you like editing this one. Forgot my glasses. So, excuse the squinting. Is this thing still on? Well, welcome back to another wrap-up video. This thing is about ready to go home to Preston, and Ricky over at Horizon Motorsports and the whole Horizon Motorsports crew, however they work over there. I don't know whose truck this is. It's one of theirs or one of their kids or something, but they're all a bunch of good guys. And we built them another truck. So this is a Squarebody Chevy truck, C10. It is riding on a Roadster Shop Fast Track IRS chassis. So what that means is we have independent suspension, front and rear. It's all based off of a Corvette. I believe they do a C7 now. We have 20-inch shot wheels all the way around, and the biggest brakes we've done from Bear, which we've done them a couple times, but these are Bear's 16-inch rotor and 6-piston caliper, which takes up a ton of that 20-inch wheel. On the outside of the truck, there's not a ton to talk about on this one because this is pretty much how it came to us. They bought this truck, I believe they bought this at Barrett-Jackson a few years ago. It's been sitting in their storage or collection, whatever they call it, and they decided it was time to make it what it is. And then it's gonna go from here and it's gonna get a wrap, and this truck will be Mongoose 2.0. So if you're familiar with Broly's version of a Mongoose and BMX inspired square body, they own that also. They bought that from Broly. And this is supposed to be the big bad brother of that truck. So excuse me while I look at the tire size, because I forget. Not a normal tire for us, but this is a 345/30/20 in the rear. That's a 20/12. And up front, we have a 20/10 with a 285/30/20 on it. Full turn, lock to lock, no rubbing. At this height, this is about as low as we can make it. We actually brought the front up a little bit because this is as low as we can go with the rear. Charge ports, where you put your fuel. It's one modification we did do to the outside. So where you would normally put your gas, you've got charge ports for your battery. And most of the exterior modifications are actually done in the bed. So with the Roadster Shop chassis, the bed has to come up a little bit, and it's not a ton, just a couple inches. But when we talked about how we were going to do this, he still wants to be able to throw stuff back here. So we went bed liner again, and we even did some cool billet hooks on the side so they can tie stuff down. So everything in here, we sheet metaled the sides, and then we panel bonded them. So we actually ran panel bond behind here. So we put a little step in this side panel, goes behind the factory bedside. We panel bond it. We put a nice tape line so that it doesn't get up onto the bedside. And then we bed line from there down. These are obviously brand new bead rolled panels. The floor is bead rolled. We make our floor just like we do for the wood, but we cover that in sheet metal with a cool bead roll panel. And then of course, it has our tailgate latch kit. So you can see bolts right in like factory. Doesn't need to be painted or anything. It's all coated. Deletes the terrible mount and the terrible rattling metal in exchange for easy closing. This is, like I said, this is Roadster Shop's Fast Track IRS. Rather than having a live axle or a straight axle with a 4-link or a 4-link and a Watts link or a triangulated link or however everybody else does it, this one is upgraded to the independent rear end. So that is a cast center section that runs a 9-inch third member. So we have a Curry 9-inch third member inside of that cast center section that Roadster Shop has made for them. Then we've got some custom half shafts that go out to the Corvette style spindles, and we've got the largest diameter drive shaft we've ever run. I believe that thing's a 5-inch drive shaft. The whole chassis was powder coated by Patco's powder. Most of the chassis is white. We obviously have some blue accents in the diff and some of the suspension parts. We built our own gas tank for this one because Roadster Shop doesn't send the chassis with the gas tank. So we built our own, and then we put a cover over it with our logo on it, and then a recess for the gas cap. So you don't see the fuel pump, you don't see any of that stuff, fuel sending unit. It does have an Aeromotive 450 liter per hour pump in it. Up front of the door, you can see it does have our billet hinges, and then the Dakota Digital linear actuators up there. Again, this is on Dakota Digital, so you just press the button and it goes down and it's all done. All right, under the hood, we have Chevrolet's relatively new ZZ632 big block. So 632 cubic inches. I believe it's rated at 1,004 horsepower as a crate engine, and I think mid 800s for torque. And we left the engine alone, other than we put this Hogan's billet intake manifold on it because the one that comes on it sat about here. So it would have not gone under the hood. Also under the hood, we have Hart Fab inner fenders. These are made for just the mild drop or the lowered vehicle. Gives us a lot of extra clearance for the wider tires up front. We have Little Shop manufacturing hood hinges with the billet strut mount and the hydraulic strut that keeps the hood up. There's a lot of little things we had to do in here. Like if you look, this radiator is pushed forward, and we tried to make it look like it was almost factory. You know, like we carried that little lip around so we could sink that in there. Billet overflow tank. We have an Eddy Motorsports pulley setup, which is the same pulley setup that would go on basically any newer big block engine. And then of course, for the brakes, we have our electric master cylinder available on our website, Trey5customs.com. So Frank over at Eye Candy, after we did the firewall, which you can see we had to do quite a bit for the firewall. This does not look anything like a factory Squarebody firewall. But after we built that and bead rolled that, Frank did the bodywork and paint on that. And then they also did the bodywork and paint on the inner tubs from Hart Fab. But the core support is actually powder coated. So Pack Coast did a little bit of metal bodywork around this. And then we also filled a lot of the extra holes along here, and they metal bodyworked it and powder coated this. And then we did the intake manifold, the intake tube, upper and lower radiator hoses. We did those in a gloss black. Ultimate headers. We had to work with them a little bit to get a header that fit this chassis good. This is just a mid-length header. It is 1 7/8 inches. So Chevrolet recommends a 2-inch, but a lot of people have been doing testing on these, and the 1 3/4 inches doesn't really affect the performance at all. So we also talked about doing like a 3.5-inch exhaust all the way back, but everything we looked at said it doesn't really play that big of a part. So we went with our standard 3-inch, 1 7/8 inches ultimate headers. But we do have a Mondo sized air filter on this one that's tucked down in there behind the headlight. So that's kind of it. Lighting, we didn't really change a lot of the lighting. We did change the headlights. The headlights are the Holley Retro Brights. You've heard us talk about those a few times on the on these videos. But these are the Retro Brights, so they're meant to look just like the 4x6 headlights that would have came on here, but they're composite plastic of some sort, so they won't break or shatter from a rock chip. And then they're LED rather than a, factory would have been sealed beam, then you can upgrade to an H4, and then these are upgraded past that to an LED. New bumpers, front and rear. But everything else is kind of as it was. When we shaved the firewall, we did get rid of the wipers, but we left the wiper nubs on here, and we just put a nice little plastic cover over them so they don't look unfinished. It does have our rear view mirror, another thing available on our website. If you want to go there and buy stuff, build your stuff at home like we built it at the shop. Maybe not quite, but you can buy some of the parts we use. Let's go inside. We're going down here. All right, inside the interior, Preston wanted to keep this thing mostly stock. It did have the headliner and the A-pillars, B-pillars, and all the headliner trim in it, as well as the sun visors. So we didn't really touch any of that stuff. The dash is actually the dash that came with the truck. We replaced some of the stuff that just breaks when you take these things apart. Plastic and stuff that wasn't meant to be taken apart. This truck came to us with air conditioning, so we didn't have to do anything with that other than when we took everything apart, we did have to replace the vents because they break. We just built a little ABS cover for where the fuel tank switcher would be, because obviously we just have the one in the back now. We did the existing carpet and floor mats that came with the truck, so we didn't even change those. So the big upgrades we made in here were, obviously we built this cool center console. Steve over at Elevated Design took care of this. So we've got some storage, we've got a power port in there, we've got a place to put your beverages, and then a place to put your phone, or whatever else you may want to put in there. And then stereo wise, we upgraded to a retro sound radio, and we kept it simple. We did kick panels, by we I mean Steve, did kick panels with some Morel speakers behind the kick panels. We did a single sub behind the seat and a single amp to power the whole thing. And then probably the biggest change in the interior, because this truck is meant to go roundy round and road coursey stuff, we didn't want to get crazy with the roll bar and 5-point harnesses, but we did want some extra lumbar and side support. So we got back, little sides, and these are one of TMI's seats. And these things do hold you in here. They're a little small for me, but I'm a little bit bigger than Preston and Ricky are, so I think they'll be super comfortable. And they're killer looking seats. So we did upgrade the steering column to the Squarebody Syndicate column, and then we put a Billet Specialty steering wheel on it with a little D shape on the bottom. And then behind that, we have the Squarebody Syndicate gauges. So these are made by Dakota Digital, but they are made special for Squarebody Syndicate. So Syndicate Series gauges, Syndicate Series column, Billet Specialty steering wheel, kept it column shift, kept the key on the column, but we do have tilt, and we do have cup holders, and we do have to wrap this video. It's getting long. Hope you enjoyed. Let's go do some rolling shots so I can quit talking. I feel like I'm talking too much. This truck's cool though, and it's fast. And even with these Michelin Pilot Sports, it still breaks loose.